Welcome everyone to another Autogefühl episode with Thomas here today with the all-new BMW X6 in the second generation. And here we got a very special model. It's not the all-top M model, but it is the M50d. Sadly, it's not available in the US, you only get the petrol engines here, but it shows you how the top level car of the BMW X6 looks like if you put everything in it, but if you're just right below the real M version. So there are also the new M versions of the X6 and the X5 with 575 horsepower and turbo petrol engine, of course. But this one here is the top diesel, the M50d, and well, we got everything from the equipment. The price, as this car stands here right now, well, the M50d is about 87,000 euros in Germany, and we can soon always compare the prices to the dollar prices because, you know, the dollar-euro exchange is quite even nowadays, although in the US the cars are a little bit cheaper in general. Well, this car as it stands here right now is between 90 and 100,000 euros because it has some more extra equipment in it. So it's really the top of the normal X6 range. It will be very interesting to see how much M features this car already has, because it is allowed to carry that M logo, and so it seems to be very sporty, at least from the name. Is it really that sporty? And what about the discussion about the X6 in general? It's the full-size SUV, but still a coupe, and this car is really polarizing because some really hate it and others love it. Starting at the front with the design, well, what have they changed in the second generation? The car itself, well, it got a little bit more elegant, I must say. The first X6 was, you know, really a tank, and so it was also polarizing. This one is rather elegant here now. For example, the front lights, they look a little bit slimmer. Of course, we still have that huge double kidney, which is significant for all the BMW models. It looks really huge and also very masculine here in the front. But in general, just from the design lines they have drawn now, it looks a little bit more, you know, city-like and not as strong as the first generation. Well, it could be actually an advantage because the car really, you know, had a lot of haters in the first generation. And now I already got asked, oh, are you driving the all-new BMW X4? No, it's the X6, but you can actually mistake it for that because it looks not that huge anymore than the old car. The size, of course, basically stayed the same, 4.9 meters long, almost 2 meters wide without the side mirrors, and we almost got a wheelbase of approximately 3 meters. So quite a huge car, but you don't really see it anymore, in my opinion. So the main design features you see here is that folding roofline. Technically, the X6 and the X5 are basically the same, so it's really a decision about how you want the roofline to end and about the basic setup of the car. This car really drives a little bit more sporty than the X5, but you know, the basic change is the design, and so it's really about what do you like more. And if you're basically against the X6, you, well, also have to be against the X5 because it's kind of the same size. So I think it looks really more elegant now also from the sideline, and the rear is not that prominent than in the previous version. I think it's a very beautiful roofline here, falling it down. Even if my personal opinion, well, I prefer more when the full-size SUV are really in that classic angular design. But well, that's an interesting discussion, so I also want to hear your opinions on that one. By the way, these one are the 19-inch alloys on winter tires here still. So I think if you pick even larger ones, the car might look a little bit too aggressive. I think this one is a very good choice here, also in this flamenco red color. So we got the new designed rear here with the second generation. Of course, it is still huge in comparison to other cars, but again, this one doesn't look that huge than in the previous version. I think we got the M50d logo here, so that significant M logo is allowed to carry on this to this car already, and we soon also see why it's the case. Of course, this one here, the M50d, does not sit lower than the real M version, so the suspension is rather comparable to the other BMW X6, but we already got the adaptive suspension in here. But back again to the rear, we got two huge pipes here at the rear end. I was kind of a little bit surprised, because when you're driving behind that car, they're a little bit shaking, and so they're kind of shaking around in there. That doesn't look too premium, but I can promise you everything else about this car is more than premium. We'll see that in the interior. You might think about, okay, if I buy a BMW X6 now, is it really that less practical than the X5? But I can show you also with the trunk. You can also control it with the key, by the way. It's very beautiful M key as well. Actually, it is still quite practical. So got a large trunk opening here, and you still can load a lot of things in here. There's a nice cover, also high in class. Got a small loading seal here, a small step here. But still, you're a little bit limited in the height. But it goes far beyond there. That's comparable to the X5. Only if you want to maybe transport the fridge or something like that, you should really go for the X5, because you also got more in the height there. So I think they found a good compromise here to make this car a little bit more appealing to the ones who did not like it before. Or what is your opinion on that? Now we'll take a closer look at the engines, because BMW is always famous for their great engines, of course. So let's go for the hood. It's always a little bit complicated. Very interesting feature is that it has a kind of sharp angle here at the front. Of course, huge hydraulic dampers. It already has an M performance sign on that engine. And well, actually it's a quite interesting diesel. It's still the 3-liter diesel of BMW, here with 381 horsepower in the M50d. However, there's also the 40D with 313 horsepower and the 30D with 258 horsepower. And for the petrol lovers, and also for our friends from the US, they are the petrol versions 35i with 300 horsepower, 50i with 450 horsepower, and then the top M version with 575 horsepower. So actually, about the acceleration figures, the real M version, the new one from the X6, has the acceleration figure of 4.7 seconds. That's of course huge for such a 2-ton heavy car. But this one actually, you could say, oh, it's just a diesel, but 3-liter diesel, the 3-liter diesel is really awesome from BMW, 381 horsepower, and there the acceleration figure is just 5.2 seconds. So this car is 30,000 euros less in comparison to the real X6 M version, but you only get 0.5 seconds slower in the acceleration from 0 to 100. So it's just a small difference, but you still got the better car use for the everyday life, because the M is rather rough. So I think the M50d here is a good compromise between a lot of power and all the features, or at least the most features the M car has. Not of course the original M suspension, they want to make a difference still, but this one is still very good for the everyday driving. It still has a lot of power, and you can see more about that when driving the car. Now let's first take a look at the interior. So about the interior, we here got the M interior already. It's not quite the same interior than the real X6 M version, but I think this one is maybe even better. I'm going to explain to you why. In comparison to the normal X6 version, we got the M steering wheel here, and it's really worth the money because it's, well, very awesome, I must say. It's not that small still, so I think it fits to this full-size SUV. That it's not too small, but still you got a very good grip, very soft surface, the M logo below here, and in general it looks kind of light, you know. There's a lot of space here in between, and the steering is also very good. I'm going to talk about it while driving later. The instruments, by the way, you see here, this one is it's aluminum, at least aluminum style here, and then everything inside is digital. So it's kind of a mix. You got this analog structure around, then the digital on the inside. Very interesting. You maybe have seen when I turn off or on the ignition, see the steering wheel moves up. So now it's kind of the phase that I can get in the car easier. And when I start it again, then it comes towards me as I had it in the last setup. Very special are these seats. These are one of my favorite seats for the X6. Very comfortable, and they got the Alcantara on the inside. You only got this here in the X6 M50d, or if you pick the M Sports package, but do not pick the full leather option, and this one then. Well, so it's possible to get it for the other cars with the M Sport package, but you have to pick it then. So the M Sports package is optional for the usual X6 versions, and then you can pick just without an extra paying if you want the full leather option or here the Alcantara on the inside. I will always go for that one because it's not too warm in the summer times. It feels really soft, very good also for long traveling, and it's not getting cold in winter time. So now, as well, it was quite cold lately as well, and then I always had to use seat heating on full leather seats, and here I didn't use the seat heating at all. That was kind of a very clear sign for it. So I'm in the driver's seat now, and as I said, the seats are very comfortable. I can just recommend them. There's also the lumbar support option, and you really got these great Alcantara seats here with the X50d. Otherwise, I said, if you pick the petrol versions, for example, if you buy a 50i in the US or something like that, then pick the M Sports package and try to pick the Alcantara version inside a talk to your dealer then. Now let's take a detailed look at the dashboard. I can just first turn on the ignition without starting the engine really. We see again the digital dashboard here, but now I want to focus also on the central screen. You see it's really wide and looks very clean, actually, very clear as well. A great resolution. I don't really need a satellite nav here well, speaking of the Google Earth view, so I think this one is maybe even better, just if you think about navigation. It's also the speed is very fast. You see, it's good reaction times, and also if you want to go to the menu, you can pick everything with the control button in the center. So it's not a touchscreen as we're used from BMW, but you know, all the reaction times are very fast. There are also some very nice features. For example, you can pick the light options. I'm showing you that as I did it in the basement garage, because you can better see how the light changes then. So for example, you can also pick an orange color for the ambient light, a blue color, a white color, or also combinations of these. That, for example, you got different color in the footroom and different color at the inside of the doors, for example. So very nice ambient lighting you got here with that one. Other options, the telephone for the Bluetooth is very fastly connected. That's also not a problem. And I'm always controlling it with the button below here, the central button. And as soon as you drive in the cars for a few days, you get along that you don't have to look at it. So you know, okay, this is the menu. And then you feel, okay, this is the shortcut key for the sat nav, for the telephone, and you picking your last calls. That works pretty fine. Also the shifting lever is really awesome, very sporty, also with the M logo. I think it's flawlessly done. You just pull it around, and then you got go to the D mode. Not happening here now because the engine is not turned on. What is not so well done is, you see, it's very prone to scratching these surfaces here, because you also tend to put a lot of stuff on here, and also just this whole cover here, it's a little bit cheap, you know. And I would also expect that I push it and then it turns on automatically back and forth, but it's just manually, and I think that's just one flaw. But everything else is really superb. Just when you turn the knobs here, from the haptical feeling and also from the sounds they make, really high class. Also, if you just push some random button, for example here the seat heating, it all really feels high class. I would maybe pick another surface here that looks a little bit like it would be just wrapped. I would more like some clean aluminum style there, for example, or maybe here in the X50.
Wenn möglich, bitte wenden.
Oh, thank you, GPS. Maybe some carbon style, something like that. And here we got the shiny black color that is quite beautiful as well. So really superb interior in general. Also, if you look at the dashboard, not sure if it's genuine or artificial leather. But it's also, you know, I think you cannot really do it better. I would maybe prefer some contrast stitches here, but in general also the HUD, the head-up display, is kind of behind that one, so I don't see this HUD structure as for example, if you checked our Audi RS7 review. So it's really well hidden, the HUD behind the dashboard structure. So altogether, I want to also hear your opinion about this interior. We got the Harman Kardon sound system here as well, by the way, great sound. Then, as you asked for it, I will also open this one here. Got a little space below that, and also a USB port. By the way, for your beverages, you've maybe seen the, you know, that stuff I didn't like the cover in the front for 2 beverages, and there's also space for even bigger beverages and bottles at the inside of the doors. So that's also a good feature, especially for our American friends. The ceiling, by the way, is all in black here. You know, as you've seen other reviews, I usually prefer the bright interiors. So because a black ceiling also makes the car a little bit dark, especially because we got this coupe style here, which is looking very neat from the inside, because you really got that curved structure. And well, it's still, because it's black, it all seems a little bit dark. So I would always go for maybe a panoramic roof, which we don't have here, or maybe bright interior. But this one is also together with the M style here. However, still it's a very good style altogether, especially with the broad screen here. So I think it's the best you can get in this car, in this BMW X6. I would also prefer it in comparison to the real M version. Maybe also here because of these details. The side tunnel cover is also in Alcantara style with white contrast stitches. Very beautiful, and you do need it because, you know, it's a very huge middle tunnel, as we also use from BMW, and so you also touch it with your leg, and then it's good when it's protected here. So let's now get into the rear compartment. You see the doors do not open 90 degrees, so it's not too easy to get in here. We also do not have a handle here, but we got a lot of leg space really. I got the driver's seat now as I would be driving. I'm 1.86 meters tall. It always remains that way. Very beautiful at the inside of the doors. Also we got that leather style, and so no complaints about the leg room. However, the headroom, well, it's still okay if I'm sitting like that now. If I would lean back really, then I'm touching the ceiling with my head. So that one is the disadvantage of the X6. If you want to lean back and still have space above your head, you would need the X5. Still, there's a lot of space here in the rear compartment. It's also quite comfortable. Usually you would sit like this as a rear passenger. You would not always lean your back to the head. But if you maybe have a huge family and also want to travel a lot, then maybe the X5 is the better idea than the X6. We also got the Alcantara seats here in the back. That is also a very nice feature. And we got a separate climate control for the rear passengers, which is also very high class. You can put temperature here, vent structure, and everything like that. So altogether, again, very much premium-like here also in the rear department. But of course, you're also paying a lot for the car. So let's start the car. We don't really hear it's a diesel, so that's a good sign. First of all, the sound isolation is really superb. See, the steering wheel is coming to my direction now. Then I'm using the shifting lever now, the automatic shifting lever. Got the ZF 8-speed automatic transmission here now, which is also, I think, one of the best on the market. Now I want to turn the car around. Well, I would expect from the steering wheel it's maybe a little bit more progressive, so I do not need the longest steering way, but it could be a little bit shorter. Then you can see the rear view camera also got that fake view from above. So we also got cameras all around the car that is showing us where we are actually at. And at the same time, we also got the acoustic and optical sign here, how close we get to the next barrier behind us. And if we go to the front again, I still see the 360 view. That you can see maybe an obstacle in front of us. It's also quite good, and so for a huge car, it's really good to have these systems, because then you also get along in the city, for example. You really just have to look at the screen and you'll be absolutely fine. Well, we got a little bit of bumps here in the road, but still the suspension is really superb. As I said, we got the adaptive suspension in here, and that really works great. So, I think I want to turn off GPS now. Well, and about driving, first of all, you of course realize you sit very high, you're in this full-size SUV, but at the same time it's not that soft as other SUVs would be. You got a rather sporty approach. So now, as we're starting here on the bumpy countryside road, we can really enjoy the riding comfort with the great seats I talked before. See, there was a huge hole in the left side of the road. It's absolutely no problem for this car. So the X6 also has off-road features, off-road capabilities. Of course, well, you rather would imagine the X5 in that one, but you know, we also won't focus on off-road features here today, because the X6 is usually bought for city driving. But if you maybe have an entry to your farmland or something like that, which is a little bit bumpier, it will also be quite fine with the BMW X6. So if we go a little bit faster here now, I realize the adaptive suspension is also getting stiffer, and I really have the feeling driving a rather sporty car, and also a car that would sit lower. So they really got this great compromise done, that you have a good SUV with a lot of comfort, but still can drive very sporty. And that's kind of, well, very surprising, I must say, that you really can do this. And I think BMW has worked a lot of it, that this compromise is really possible. So well done here. So, by the way, the turning indicators, the columns for it, they also feel high class, and also the sound you hear, that's a nice detail. It's a very great sound for that one as well, because sometimes these turning indicator sound can be a little bit annoying. Okay, if we push the throttle in now, this diesel doesn't really feel on the... You do not hear it's a diesel, even if you push the throttle very hard. It's just that superb power you got from this almost 400 horsepower, as I've told you. And these just about 5 seconds from 0 to 100, all the way on 100 again, it's really incredible. So I can just recommend the BMW diesel, especially here in the 3-liter version. Of course, still you do have enough power if you pick the one which does not have that much horsepower. The basic 3-liter one will also be quite fine, even for this X6 car. Well, of course, it's always nice to have more horsepower. The consumption, however, now on the long term, about 10.5 liters on 100 kilometers. I think that's quite okay for that engine. However, it can be a little bit less if you got the smaller diesel engine. Well, and again, on the long term, the Alcantara seats, very comfortable. I can also put a little bit of lumbar support here in my lower back. That's fine as well. The steering wheel, so soft. Also from the handling, it's really amazing how a big SUV doesn't shake that much on the road. It's really stiff enough that you can drive sporty with it. Well, it stays comfortable still, I must say. So again, I can just stress this compromise they've made here. I also know when I'm driving here, for an M Sporty, a sporting wheel, I would have expected that we have a little bit more steering input. If I go fast around the corner now, you see I'm turning the steering wheel quite a lot actually, and I would have expected that it has a little bit or more of this progressive feeling it could offer, that I don't have to turn in that hard on the steering wheel but still have more effect on the road. But that's just in detail. In general, the steering is still quite precise, even if you have to turn it a little bit more. And I think it's also quite okay that the steering wheel is not too small here for the very huge car. For example, in the all-new Volvo XC90, there's a very long review of that as well. We can already call it documentary. There you see the steering wheel is way smaller, for example. It's also okay, but I think if it's a little bit bigger, it better fits to this SUV style, you know. Now again, quite a bumpy road. Again, superb comfort. I really love it. So I would have not expected, but I really like the X6 from driving that much. Because, you know, I'm also a fan of sporty cars. Not of really stiff cars, but let's say sporty cars. But I'm also a fan of huge SUVs. And that one is one of the few cars where you can actually really combine these two features. So maybe this one here, especially in the M50d version, where you get, well, acceptable consumption, but still a sporty setup and sporty interior and exterior, you maybe do not have to go for two separate cars, a sports car and the Forza SUV. You can just buy one car. It's maybe cheaper, but of course, the X6 in general is quite expensive, also in comparison to the X5. For example, in Germany, they offer it in a lower entry version, only the X5, and the X6 already has, you know, a little bit more of the features inside, and also the smallest engine is only available for the X5, because they say, okay, if you want to go for the X6, you might be someone who spends more money on that one. So again, the sound isolation, no matter how fast we go, it stays relatively silent here in that car. Some people I've talked to told me, okay, when I'm driving really fast on the motorway, like 150, 160, the car tends to shake up. But I mean, come on, it's a full-size SUV. What do you expect? Even if you're going quite fast, I think, just from my opinion, this car is really well controllable anymore. But I think you do not have to go 180 on the motorway with a full-size SUV, because there's so much weight, and no matter how good the brakes are, you have to really reduce the speed on such a heavy car. And how do you do that actually? It's not that easy, because it's just physics when a car is weighing so much. So I would really recommend, do not go too fast on the maximum speed with a full-size SUV. Always imagine I have 2 tons below my back, and somehow I have to reduce the speed to 0 kilometers in the case of emergency. So I would really not say it's too shaky even at high speeds. So I think the adaptive suspension here does a very great job. And also the automatic shifting. I got shifting levers here as well. I don't really use them because I just trust on the automatic mode. However, there's also a mode where you can have a little bit more fun than just turning here around. So, because if we look right down here, right now I was riding in comfort mode, I can also put it to the sport mode. Then we can see it also changes in the digital instruments, and we got the red background, and the RPM meter is huge then, the digital RPM meter. So as we're now in the sport mode, we got direct throttle input. The shifting also doesn't happen that fast, so it goes to higher RPMs. so it's easier to get the car to speed. So I just have to push the throttle once and we get a great speed boost. So you wouldn't expect it from such an SUV, that you get so much speed just with one time on the throttle. Here you get now some sporty driving here. I didn't have an SUV before where sporty driving is actually that much fun. It's really amazing. Also, although the car is really heavy, it doesn't push you to the sides that much. So the understeering process is quite okay for such a heavy car. That's really fine, quite amazing as well. And that is thanks again to the adaptive suspension, of course. Now let's hammer the throttle again. Wow, really huge acceleration. So you have to watch out that you don't drive too fast with such a heavy car. The brakes are really superb, I must say, for that weight. But of course, you always have to calculate with other drivers which are not driving as good as you might be driving. Also great sound, isn't it? What do you think about the sound? I'm not sure how you're hearing it really over the microphone I got on my ear, but the sound for a diesel, maybe one of the best diesel sounds. Besides of these that have an extra sound generator, you've maybe seen our Maserati Ghibli review. There you got the diesel with a sound generator, and it almost feels like here you hear on V6, V8, because that's a sound generator. By the way, this sound generator style, this will increase. You can make diesel sound like a petrol engine by that, and also all the future petrol engines, because you know, there's this feature, for example, the Jaguar F-Type or the Porsche 911, Porsche Cayman, with this button where you can even top up the sound with the button. That one will, at least in Europe, will be forbidden. I think it's starting 2016. So on that development will also increase the use of sound generators for the inside of the car. Well, so concluding from the driving here, really superb driving due to the adaptive suspension. You can drive sporty and comfortable at the same time here. You also don't feel that the car is too heavy or too big. So I'm really convinced of driving here from the inside. Although I'm not the biggest fan of the exterior of the BMW X6, I'm really a fan of driving it. Here in the central screen we also got some nice visual features. For example, for the X-Drive status, here you can see power for all the four wheels, and well, the screen shows me where the power is applied. You see the rear wheels are first, because the all-wheel drive here works rear wheels plus front wheels. That's the classic BMW X-Drive style. By the way, this is the head-up display. You see it flickering. That's just because the frame rate of the camera is a different one from the head-up display. In your real view, in real life, it looks quite fine. It's not flickering. It's very great head-up display because you also see the GPS commands. And if you, for example, also control something from your sound or something like that, it's also appearing in there that you can also switch the next music title. One disadvantage of the BMW X6 is the view, because first of all we got a very huge A-pillar that really, well, isn't kind of an obstacle for your view. If something is coming like between straight and left, well, you can't really oversee something. And furthermore, if you just take the central rear mirror, you just got a small hole to look in the back. So, well, it is still okay. You can see what's behind you, but it's not really good. So that's also a disadvantage for that one. So let me conclude about the BMW X6 in the second generation, and here as the M50d. It's really a great car when it comes to driving. I think they have really made the difference here. Also in comparison to the X5, you get the more sporty driving features here. You can really combine having a full-size SUV and driving a sporty car. And that one, well, it's not too easy to achieve that. And I think BMW has exactly achieved that in this case here. So, well, still it is a polarizing car. Some people still don't like it because they cannot really combine in their head the coupe style line and the full-size SUV. I think I didn't like the X6 before, I must say, especially in the first generation, because it looks a little bit, too heavy, too pompous maybe. I think with the second generation it has become more elegant now and, better for everyday driving as well, if you don't want to, be the most masculine driver on the road, impressing others. So it's, I think it's rather feasible to drive this car here now. Here in this M-style version, we have the separate M logos here everywhere, or maybe also the mirror caps here. So some nice design features, and I love the interior with the Alcantara, and everything about the interior is just so premium alike. So one of the best interiors I've seen lately, so very good job here. However, well, it is a lot of money, so you get along with 90,000 euros here for that car. That's really a lot. You get a lot for it, of course, but I think if you just pick a normal X6, you'll also be quite fine, because the 3-liter diesel is very good engine. Got about consumption about 10.5 liters on 100 kilometers. That can be even lower if you pick the basic 3-liter diesel with 258 horsepower. So if you want to save some money, you can also go for the small diesel in Europe, for example, or you also will be fine with the 35i in the US, for example. So altogether, again, I must say the best feature about the car is that you still got, the feeling you're driving a sporty car and have the riding comfort of an SUV. So it's a nice compromise, I think, in my opinion. And well, I know this car better now. Sometimes I said, okay, this X6 driver, I'm not sure what to think about it. But now, as I get the car, as I get to know the car, I can also like the car actually now. And I want to hear your opinion on the X6 in general, and especially on the M version, which is, in my opinion, the better choice than the real M version. Because for such a full-size SUV, why make it even stiffer? I think this is stiff enough. You get the sporty driving feeling. Why make it more uncomfortable? Because the best thing about the full-size SUV is, of course, the superb riding comfort you also got here then. So again, I want to hear your thoughts on that car, on our review, about the exterior, the interior, also about the color. Which features did you like best? Which one you maybe didn't like that much? And then I hope to see you with the next Autogefühl episode. Here was Thomas or my other colleagues. Thank you very much for watching, and we see us next time.